Good afternoon. You're watching AB Live, a brand new news-based chat show in which we discuss topics ranging from business, politics, news, and so much more. On today's episode, we will be discussing a very interesting concept that goes by the name of sharing economy. And with us in the studio today, we have Anna Skigin, who is the CEO and founder of Frank Porter. Thank you so much for joining us, Anna.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So, Anna, I think let's just get straight into it. What exactly, according to you, is sharing economy? It's a concept that has been thrown around for at least a decade now globally.
So the sharing economy is basically when you're sharing either your assets or you're sharing a service. So for example, Airbnb, Uber, the names of the sharing economy are all about if you have a property that maybe you're not using, you're able to rent it out to someone else who needs somewhere to stay and make some money in the process.
Right. So would you call it a peer-to-peer form of economy?
It's peer-to-peer, but it doesn't have to be. It's also can be a business-to-business. So for things like sharing office space or hiring freelancers, anything like that is considered to be part of the sharing economy. Right. And so what we do, we are a platform, we help people rent out their properties on Airbnb, Booking.com. So when people don't want the actual hassle of dealing with it, that's where we come in, and we're part of the sharing economy in that way, in that we help people rent out and make money off of their properties.
Oh, great. So you are a facilitator of the sharing economy for now. But Anna, I'd like to know, what are the main factors or forces that actually power the sharing economy as we know it today?
So tech is a huge force that's powered. So before, maybe people would know that I have an apartment and would ask to rent it out, family or friends. Mm-hmm. Whereas now I can rent out my home and market it on a global scale through platforms like Airbnb. So the tech world has shared and given people access to the sharing economy. More people are a part of it because of technology.
Okay, interesting. So I'm sure blockchain has a predominant role to play in the whole economy then.
Yeah, for sure. So blockchain is kind of a newer concept in the sharing economy. It's taking it to the next level. It's not even using any intermediary. It's being able to like really true peer-to-peer. So I don't even have to use a platform like Airbnb and they would handle my payments. You and I could literally do a sharing of a home, but it's everything between us. There's no intermediary. That's kind of what blockchain is trying to do with all of these platforms.
All right, so it's technology, but also monetizing on technology is what's happening.
And taking away the premium. So any kind of fee that you have to pay that you are still using a platform, blockchain is attempting to take that away. Mm-hmm. So it's literally truly what peer-to-peer should be, is that there is no intermediary that's trying to make money off of us. We can just, have a deal between us. Right.
So just on those lines, considering sharing economy as a concept itself is new in the market, and we've just probably seen it for over a decade now, but startups probably then play a very, very dominant role because it's a new concept, so you need new products to disrupt the market. So what is essentially the role or the importance and the significance of startups in all of this?
Well, anything that you share, you have to have a platform for you to share it on. So Airbnb, Uber, any kind of freelance platforms like Upwork, for example, they facilitate the process. They're able to bring in the person that wants the service to the person that has the service or the asset, right? So you have a lot of startups that are coming into this space and are trying to play a part and to facilitate the shared economy transactions.
All right.
And there's a lot of new ones, and you mentioned blockchain. There's a lot of new players coming up, more in the US for now, but all around the world that are trying to help people make these exchanges.
Okay, so since we are just still going through the introduction of sharing economy, maybe you just need to mention a few examples so our viewers can just get a better idea of what we're actually talking about. Globally or locally relevant examples?
Well, I think that locally you have Kareem, anyone sort of with a car you can call me, as you know how it works. I can pick you up, drive you somewhere with my own car. That's a huge player here in this market. Airbnb, I keep mentioning because that is kind of the pioneer, and the whole idea of sharing economy started back more than 10 years ago when people wanted to rent out a mattress in their home to someone who needed a place to stay. Okay. So these are kind of the big names of the sharing economy. Right. They're the ones that people know, but there's a lot of smaller players that are coming in coming up as well.
Right, so you mentioned that Airbnb started about 10 years ago, back in 2008 or something, which is when the global recession actually happened. So at that point, people were obviously in need of money, economy wasn't doing well, etc. So that sort of led to the necessity of a parallel economy like that. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure, that it started out like that people needed extra cash. And how do you make extra cash? You can either get another job or you can use what you have. In that case, it was your home. You already have an asset, you're already renting or owning your home, and you can also rent out the room or some space in it to make that extra cash. Or for example, services. I'm a plumber and that's my day job, but then I want to make some money on the side. There's apps like TaskRabbit that help you out, that you can actually do this after work and make some disposable money. So for sure, the recession has facilitated that. And that's made the industry grow so much. But then once the industry is starting to grow globally, on a global scale, there's always a recession somewhere. There's always somebody that wants extra money.
Yeah.
And there's always new services that you can share. So that's why it's become such a global phenomenon.
All right, great. So now this sort of brings me to, what if the economy started stabilizing again, and we're over the recession phase, we're over the economic slump. Do you think the shared economy market could crash then?
No, because there's never, not everyone is always well off, so the economy might be doing a little bit better, but there's always people that are going to need extra money. There's always people that want to share, and there's always new things that you can share. There's always new concepts being developed and new platforms where people can share services. They can share like I can share my phone, I can share my bicycle, I can share. So the industry is growing in different ways. And there's always going to be a need for that.
All right, that brings me to what next, especially in this region, in the UAE. What is going to happen with the sharing economy?
So it's fascinating here, the sharing economy. Just in our industry, the legalization of Airbnb and holiday homes and short-term happened only in 2016. I mean, you're talking about Airbnb from 2008. This is how long it's a very new concept here in this region, but it's growing exponentially. People are learning about what it is, they're becoming more open to it, they're starting to contribute to the sharing economy. So this region, I think, will be one of the fastest growing regions for the sharing economy.
All right, but do you think the reason why it took so much time to sort of disrupt in this market was because of the lack of regulations, and especially the governments had the fear that, if this market isn't regulated, the control is not really in their hands?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, regulation plays a big part. It's also the mentality of sharing. It's a cultural change as well, that you have this idea of, I want to share my home. I want to open up the doors of my home to a stranger. That takes some time to maybe grasp. Whereas I'm seeing it happen here. And it's really interesting that when we came, even 2017, a lot of people didn't know what Airbnb was.
Yeah.
Now when I'm speaking to people, they know it, they want to be on it, they've read about it. So even our conversation today, people are more and more interested about the sharing economy. And that's really exciting in this region.
But do you really think there is a lack of regulations in this economy and there is no way to regulate the market at all?
Well, actually, the regulations here have facilitated Airbnb and our company to do what we do, because in this region, what we do is regulated, unlike in other regions. And that was a very smart approach done by the government. So they started out right away putting regulations and rules on it to help to make it safer.
Right. Can you give me examples of that, how the market is regulated?
So for example, any home that you want to put on Airbnb needs to be registered with the Department of Tourism, because it's part of a bigger picture tourism. Like hotels, we are regulated. We have to pay some fees to the government, and it's a safer industry maybe here than it is elsewhere because of these regulations and because of these checks.
All right.
So you might ask, well, isn't the whole point that it's supposed to
Exactly.
be deregulation? Yeah. But I think that takes time. Like every market, it takes time. They're still figuring out how to regulate this or how to make it safer, in London, let alone here, which is a new market, a new idea here. So it's going to take some time. But from my perspective, it's happening. People are trying to make the rules a bit softer, to make it more open, not just for Airbnb, but from anything, being able to share freelancers, for example, being able to have freelancers in the market. All of these concepts are being discussed at the government level.
Okay.
And I think very soon, like with the 10-year visas and all these other things that are opening up Dubai, this will change the sharing economy here.
All right, but do you think regulations could actually help this market?
I think regulations here in this region, because it is a regional thing, they do help, and they help bring more awareness about it. If you have government support, which we do, there's more awareness of what it is, and there's more growth. And then once you grow to a certain stage, maybe that's the point that you can discuss, well, how can we maybe lower the regulations?
Okay, interesting. But now again, the UAE and Dubai, it's in a very, very crucial and critical time, considering Expo 2020 is upon us, and Expo 2020 does call for the model that we see right now of a shared economy or a sharing economy. So do you think once Expo 2020 is over, we could actually go back to the existing model of economy?
You mean go back? No, I don't think so. Like anything with these kind of concepts and tech, you can never go back. It's just going to grow, and it's going to grow maybe in a different way, but it's always going to continue to grow and develop. Because once you have a sense of how great it is to rent out your home, how great it is to have Uber, how great it is to have Careem, then you can't really go back anymore. You know, you can't go back to the past when it comes to tech and innovation.
Right.
But the Expo, what I think it's doing is bringing Dubai, it's putting Dubai on a map in terms of international, in tourism, in terms of innovation. There's a lot of companies opening up for the Expo. Our business has grown tremendously with people wanting to put out their properties on the market before the Expo to make sure that they, have the reviews and they can support tourism during the Expo. So the Expo, I think, is going to be a great thing for the country, and I don't think it's just during the Expo. I think for a while afterwards as well.
Okay, it will last. The effects are going to be seen for a while.
I mean, we hope so, but I think definitely with the government support as well, that will happen.
Right. So Anna, I actually read a report of yours which you published saying that this could actually be the best time to buy property ahead of the Expo because short-term leases are going to be a thing. Would you still say that, and how short-term leases and this entire concept ahead of the Expo would fuel shared economy or the concept in this region?
Yeah, for sure. So now is a great time to buy. First of all, the prices are great at the moment, and it's a great market for buyers in general. And they can scoop up a property in Marina or downtown and convert it into a short-term rental. I mean, that's what we do. We also furnish properties and we put them out on the market. So to also get them prepared for the Expo, and the Expo is going to be in 2020, so you have some time for the apartment to be rented out, to get reviews, to be on these platforms for a while. So when the tourist comes and they're looking for a property, they're going to, find yours with 100 reviews as opposed to someone that just posted a property yesterday.
Right.
So that's why we're encouraging people to buy their properties and to straight away put them on short term.
Okay, but currently Dubai is known to be a very heavily investor-driven market. Considering Dubai is investor-driven and also the number of end users are sort of increasing at this moment, would you say that it sort of conflicts with the interests of investors, the shared economy?
No, I mean, what do you mean exactly?
Right now people are going out and buying property over here for a longer term. Right, when in the shared economy concept, it's more on demand, it's more rental markets, it's more leasing it on short term. So is this like a conflict of interest there?
Absolutely not. I mean, the idea of the sharing economies is supposed to fill in the gaps. It's not supposed to take away from investment. You are investing in a property and you have so many ways to use it now. It's not just about buying a property and doing long term, or buying a property, holding it and selling it. Now you have the option that if you want, you can lease it out, you can rent it out on Airbnb short term, make money while you're thinking about selling it or maybe using it. Or the concept is fluid, and it's supposed to be quite kind of easy and flexible. That's the idea of shared economy, that you're supposed to be flexible and not fixed into something. So I think it goes hand in hand with investment, especially in properties.
Right. So basically,
and it actually helps you. Yeah, it actually gives you more options of what to do with that asset, as opposed to just the old school, I can either sell this asset or I can rent it out long term.
Right, so it's investing to rent it out eventually.
Yeah, it's investing it, but you have different options of what to use it for. So if you wanted to flip it, in case of property, if you buy an asset and you want to flip it, instead of waiting and losing that time, a few months until it's bought, you're renting it, you're making money off of your property short term while you're waiting for it to sell.
Right.
You could never do that before, for example, in this region, before 2016.
Okay.
So this is kind of, it's filling in the gaps for investors, I think. It's giving them more flexibility of what to do with their properties.
I agree. So the whole sharing economy concept has given more flexibility to individuals. But what exactly is it doing for nations or economies as a whole? So what is the amount of revenue that is generated through this economy compared to the traditional economic model?
I think the sharing economy, all in all, now is a 25 to 30 billion dollar industry.
Okay.
And it's supposed to grow maybe by to 300 billion in the next 5 years. That's what they're predicting, because of regions like the UAE who are growing not a little bit, they're growing at an exponential level.
Right.
Because once you open up the door, everyone wants to be part of it. And once you open up the door to just Airbnb, you're opening up the door to freelancers. You're opening up the door to different types of the sharing economy.
Okay.
And yeah, so in the emerging markets, the growth is exponential.
Okay, interesting. You did mention freelancers here. That brings me to the labor policies and the labor market. We've also seen that the whole sharing economy concept doesn't just apply to services that we can avail, it also applies to people and the services that people have to offer. So freelancing has been a concept that we've been seeing of late, but also labor sharing is another concept which is prevalent globally. Do you see that coming to the UAE, especially considering how the labor market is right now and how unemployment rates have increased at least in the last 2 years?
For sure. I think that it's going to be a game changer here. Again, this all comes back to regulation, and I know for a fact that they're trying to figure this out on, how to make it possible for a person that is working at one company and has a visa in one company to then be able to work at another without having another license. Now it's not possible. But they are making it more possible. I think it's going to open up the market. It's a huge thing elsewhere, and I think the same will go for Dubai and the UAE in general.
But do you see that happening in the near future?
I do. I see it happening in the near future.
Where there is more flexibility for laborers and employees?
For sure, because you have such an untapped market here of just, even take wives. As a wife, your license is maybe on your husband, but you have a skill that you would want to use part-time, whatever it is. You're a photographer, you're an accountant. How do you use that skill today? You can't participate in the economy because legally you can't do it. But that would be great, right? That would be such a great asset to the country if we were able to place wives or students or people that are here as tourists, for example, here for 3 months, and they want to do something and contribute to the economy. How do you make use of that? And that comes down to regulation. But I think the concept is already, if people could do it, they would do it. It's just about making sure that regulation makes sense and it's thought about in the correct way.
Right. So probably that is one of the limitations now in our model of the shared economy. But what are the main challenges that you see that this entire concept or this economic model could have?
The challenges globally. I think the safety, kind of the regulation, how do you get it perfectly right? Who protects me if I'm, for example, coming into a car, someone else's car? How do I make sure I'm safe? Things like that companies like Uber has dealt with a lot in the press, as you know. How do you protect the consumer? How do you protect the person actually lending their asset or service? That's kind of the biggest challenge. Because the whole point is less regulation, but then if you have less regulation, it's less safe. So that kind of gray area is, I think, the biggest challenge.
Right.
And also payment facilitation, which comes back to blockchain and crypto. How do you make it easier for people to transact with each other? But again, in a safe way. How do I make sure that I get paid for my service? How do you make sure it's a fair price? All of these concepts, I think, are being thought of and developed, and that will be the new challenge in this market.
Okay, you did mention protection, and that's why I need to speak about insurance. So now, how is the insurance policies and the insurance companies going to deal with a mass sharing economy where everybody is actually a part of that?
Well, I think insurance, in Europe, for example, especially when it comes to properties and the sharing, there are companies that are providing insurance for homes that is not just for you as an owner, it's for your guests.
Right.
It's for your content, or it's for the third party liability. And these concepts are coming here as well. It takes time, all of this takes time. When it's a new concept, you don't know how to insure it, but with enough incentive and enough people using it, it's a huge opportunity for insurance company to say, actually, let's put a price on that insurance and let's make it a country thing.
Right, so there probably needs to be a separate insurance structure and insurance policy for all of these assets then.
Yeah, for sure. But there is. It exists elsewhere. I know that for a fact. So it's just a matter of copying the model, or maybe looking at how other places do it and being able to ensure just, what your risks are. What are the risks when a guest comes to stay at a property? What are the risks when you're sharing a service? Whatever the risks are, they have to calculate it and make it work.
All right, and what about taxation? I know it's not as relevant as it is in the rest of the world in the UAE, but we have a value-added tax now. There are talks about other taxes coming into the picture. But what the UK has just recently done is they've gone out and actually said that for every £5,000 that you earn on any shared asset, there is going to be a different tax structure for that. So now when all of these taxes start getting implemented or introduced in this market, do you think there will be a different tax structure for it?
Well, there should be a different tax structure because it's your extra income. But and it shouldn't be too much, it shouldn't be too little. It should be the right amount of tax that the government can play a role and also can provide this regulation more freely, help these companies and help the end consumer when they know that they're getting a little bit from that, right? So the tax makes sense, but how you implement it is the problem. I think the UAE has done a great job because right away from our company, we have, it's not a tax obviously, but it's fees that we have to pay to make sure that the companies that are providing our service are legitimate, that the companies are giving back to the government. So it was the right structure from the beginning. And I'm sure that was because they saw what's happening across the world and they said, well, we don't want that, we want something else. So a tax makes sense, but it's just about how you do it that doesn't, that doesn't ruin the whole concept of the sharing economy.
Oh, exactly. So we are sort of in a gray area where regulation is needed, but not too much. Taxation would help, but again, it shouldn't ruin the entire structure. So, but it's a very interesting conversation considering the entire markets are shifting towards this economic model, and it has become a parallel economy that's running. But thank you so much for sharing all of those valuable insights. We definitely have learned a lot today. And thank you for watching AB Live. We will be back again next Tuesday with another topic that will be discussed on the show.